Love. That strange biological phenomenon capable of making you the happiest person on the planet or the most miserable one to ever exist. Why is it so complicated? Well, for my sad self from a month ago, which is why I didn't upload a video, I have the definitive answer to what love is. It exists, how to get it, how to keep it, and how to find fulfillment with the right person. And the best part is that it will all be based on science. No horoscopes or nonsense like,
Yep, she's your partner for life, no fucking doubt.
Why?
Because this line on your hand says so. And these tarot cards? Gotcha!
No, none of that. Here, it's pure science. Here, we pray to the creator of the theory of relativity, Albert Epstein, and to Tesla, who make great cars. Anyway, putting the goofiness aside, this video is gonna be long, since love is probably one of the most complex topics to understand in the human psyche, as it's something born from two individuals and which can be modified by environment, biology, or reasoning. Yeah, sounds like we went from a scale of 0 to 100 of stupidity to science. But as Jack the Ripper would say, let's take it one part at a time, starting with the biology of love, the animal and subconscious part of love. Let's start from the beginning. When we find someone we find attractive, our brain starts falling in love, increasing testosterone and estrogen. Then various neurochemicals start being released in large amounts. Dopamine, norepinephrine, oxytocin, and a drop in serotonin. The mix of all this makes us feel in love. But still, this varies from person to person. Some fall in love at first sight and can even get obsessed. Others fall in love over time. And some don't even go through a falling in love phase. They go straight to love. Now, this whole falling in love process can last from 12 months to 3 years, where dopamine receptors get saturated and return to normal. That's when the infatuation fades and something called love begins. A scientific paper published in 1998 and subsequent papers analyzed how the human brain behaved when falling in love and being in love. They noticed that love could be biologically divided into 3. Lust, the sexual desire an individual has. Attraction, how much you think about the other person and how much you give. Attachment, the glue that builds security. And tolerance. Now, these 3 sub-loves are biological, psychological, and social matters. They're things we all have, but that change from person to person. Plus, they change over time. Let's look at some examples. Turns out you normally have these default values: 40, 60, and 50. When you fall in love, these 3 values skyrocket. They can shoot way up and be unstable. But as the infatuation fades, they go back to normal. Now, for love to work well, those 3 sub-loves of both individuals need to be on par, or at least not have too wide a gap. Because a big difference in any of these sub-loves will create problems. Let's look at another example. Say I have a 20 in attraction, but my partner has a 90. That means she'll think of me 20 times a day, and I'll only think of her 4 times a day. What does this cause? It makes her seem too clingy to me, and makes me seem too cold to her. The same thing happens with other areas of compatibility. The best thing would be to find someone who shares our biological values, as this will greatly reduce problems. But here comes another point that's just as important or even more important depending on the person, and that's IQ. It turns out that IQ matters a lot in a relationship, more than you might think. It's the second most sought after trait in a partner, right after kindness. In 1989, the scientist Massey Taylor published a scientific paper. He analyzed over 1,100 British couples based on their IQ and personality tests. He showed that in couples there's a much stronger correlation in IQ than in anything else. You're 5 times more likely to be with someone with a similar IQ to yours than with someone who shares your weight, height, personality, or even tastes. And this happens because IQ is a very close synonym for intelligence, and intelligence largely shapes how a person perceives reality. For example, people with an IQ of 70 are literally incapable to understand irony, metaphors, or sarcasm. But it was also proven that a very high IQ stops being attractive and starts being scary. This happens after 135 IQ points. Now, there are a few more things that fall under unconscious love, like body odor, since women tend to prefer one that isn't similar to theirs, as this would theoretically help the child have a better immune system. Or natural physical preferences of Homo sapiens, like height in men, or the ratio between shoulder width and hips in women. Or even health itself, because if you're not in good health, you simply won't be attractive. Now, even though all of this is important, there are still more curious things about love. Like, did you know that the modern concept of love, a man and a woman wanting to be together of their own free will, is only about 260 years old? For 190,000 years, marriage only existed for survival. In the last 10,000 years, it was to secure resources like land, livestock, to ensure lineage, and to have labor. With the arrival of the Industrial Revolution 260 years ago, and thanks to poets of those times, the standard of love we have today really started to take hold, which was later shaped by the market, movies, entertainment, and now dating apps. Though I won't talk much about them in this video. But in short, dating apps aren't designed for you to find love and delete them. They're designed to keep you using them, gamifying the user and making us view people like a catalog. In short, if you want to find true love, this won't help you. But putting that aside, do you know why you fell in love with the person you fell in love with? Why not someone else? Well, psychologically, this has a name. It's called the mere exposure effect. In 1992, they did an experiment. 130 students were asked to rate 4 girls on physical appearance. All 4 girls were of similar beauty and age. The only thing that changed was how many times they attended class. Girl A attended 15 times, Girl B attended 10 times, Girl C 5 times, and Girl D not at all. When they did the surveys, the girls who had gone the most were rated higher, and the ones who had gone the least were rated lower. This was later named the mere exposure effect. It happens because anything new is seen as a threat, evolutionarily speaking, and anything that is repeated over and over without causing problems is seen as safe, causing us to see what's safe over and over, making it feel natural and to some extent good. Now, what does this cause? It causes you to fall in love with the people closest to you. Seeing the same person at the office or in the classroom triggers the mere exposure effect. Even if the person is average, after many interactions, your brain will have developed such fluency in processing their face that which will make you rate them as more attractive than someone who is objectively better looking but unfamiliar. Now, just so you have the whole picture, this also works the other way around. If your first impression was bad, repeated exposure won't fix anything. In fact, it'll only make it worse. But besides that, we humans have another bias which can affect relationships a lot more, and it's something as simple as choosing. It's called the paradox of choice. Nowadays we have something we didn't have before, or rather never had, and that's choice. Today we can choose from hundreds or thousands of people to connect with. The problem is that humans didn't evolve to choose from so many options and stick with one. But, well, to some extent, this is both unconscious and conscious. It's a strange mix of our human nature and rationality. But if you're genuine, none of this matters. Let's talk about the most important thing a person needs for a relationship to work well. And it's the second most important topic I'll cover in this video: attachment theory. If we look at the core of love, it's a relationship between two individuals. In psychology, there's something called attachment theory, which explains how people build and maintain their friendships, family relationships, and in this case, romantic ones. In 1958, the WHO published a scientific paper written by Harry Harlow, Maternal Care and Mental Health, which explained the importance of human relationships. This paper was an experiment with baby monkeys. They had two artificial mothers, a wire one that provided milk and a soft cloth one that didn't give anything. The result was that the monkeys spent almost all their time hugging the cloth mother and only went to the wire mother to eat, returning immediately to physical contact. The conclusion they drew from the experiment was that primate relationships are just as important as nutrition, meaning that having friends, a partner, or family is just as important as eating, something that wasn't believed until then. In 1978, Mary Ainsworth published the book Patterns of Attachment, where she presented the definitive experiment. The experiment is simple. A baby and their caregiver enter a room. Then a stranger also enters the room. And after that, the caregiver leaves, returning a while later. That's the experiment. But they noticed something very curious, and each baby fell into one of four behaviors. When the caregiver returned, Baby A stopped crying and started behaving as they had initially, either playing or exploring. Baby B wouldn't stop crying and at the same time rejected physical contact. Baby C ignored the caregiver's return, didn't cry, didn't do anything. Even if they're overwhelmed inside, they don't show it. Baby D shows erratic and fearful behavior, crying, biting, walking. With this, they noticed that babies fell into four types of behavior, which were later named. Attachment A was called secure attachment. Attachment B was called anxious attachment, C avoidant, and D disorganized. Now, why did each baby have a different type of attachment? This is due to the relationship they had with their caregivers. If the baby had a secure attachment, the caregiver was consistent and good. If the baby had an anxious attachment, the caregiver was unpredictable. If the baby had an avoidant attachment, the caregiver was rejecting. And if the baby had a disorganized attachment, the caregiver was frightening or traumatic. Now, these attachment behaviors remained as the subjects grew up. This means that babies who had an anxious attachment kept it as they grew up. Maybe they didn't cry anymore, but they still showed anxious behaviors. And this happens with the vast majority. But there's 25% of people who manage to improve their attachment style to secure through earned security. And well, here's the big problem. In any relationship, whether it's friendship, family, or romantic, the best person we can find is someone who has a secure attachment. Someone who doesn't need us, but who rationally and emotionally wants to share their life. Since sadly, the other forms of attachment are dysfunctional. They help a baby survive, but as you grow up and become an adult, any form of attachment other than secure will only cause problems in every aspect of life. But to end on a positive note, people with secure attachment are the majority, making up 50 to 60% of the population, according to these studies. Plus, attachment is something that can be changed or improved. Now, let's talk a bit more about personality and how much it matters in a romantic relationship. since there's a part of personality that can pretty well predict whether there will be a divorce or not. To map out human personalities, psychologists usually use the Big Five model, which maps personality into 5 sub-personalities. Openness, intellectual curiosity and aesthetic sensitivity. Conscientiousness, self-discipline and achievement orientation. Extraversion, sensitivity and social reward. Agreeableness, cooperation and social harmony. Neuroticism, sensitivity to negative emotions and anxiety-related stress. And it turns out that this last one is the one that causes problems. A longitudinal study showed that high levels of neuroticism in either partner will cause a lot of problems, being a good predictor of divorce. And as for the other sub-personalities, it's recommended that your partner has a similar personality to yours. It's a myth that opposites attract or that they complement each other. It's much more likely that an opposite personality will cause problems rather than benefits. But where it matters most to have a similar personality is in agreeableness and conscientiousness, according to this study. Now, this similarity to your partner isn't just in personality, but in everything, whether it's social, psychological, economic, personal, or superficial. Intuitively, we go for people who are similar to us. And in fact, this makes a relationship work much better, since being similar helps reduce conflict and with validation and heritability. By that last one, he means boosting what makes us different for the next generation. So, our ideal partner should be as similar to us as possible. Now, throughout this video, I've been talking a lot about the problems love has. Dilemmas, biology, environment, biases, and some fun facts too. But now I'll talk about what the most optimal strategy is to have the best kind of love. This strategy is divided into 4 main steps. Step 1. Know yourself. In this step, you need to know what your values are, your attachment style, how you function, your biological theory of love, your intelligence, your personality, what you'd like your partner to have, what you dislike, your hobbies, and so on. Once you have this knowledge of who you are and what you want in a partner, write it down to use later in step 3. Step 2. Improve. Possibly in step 1, when asking yourself what you want your partner to have, you notice that those are things you don't have or not the way you'd like. And this is where the important part comes in. If you want your partner to be intelligent, kind, or disciplined, well, you have to be too. And watch out, everything comes into play here, even your attachment style. If you don't have a secure attachment style and you don't change or improve it at this stage, well, when you're in a relationship, they won't be the one causing the problems. You will. So, improve what you can. Step 3. Search. Once you've achieved fulfillment with the first and second steps, it's time to look for your other half. And for this, I've built another plan. When looking for your ideal partner, you have to keep these 3 factors in mind. 1. Attachment style. Preferably with a secure attachment style, since it's the most functional. 2. Similarity. That the two are as similar as possible, whether in attachment, biology, way of loving, personality, etc. 3. EQ. Having a good EQ, also known as emotional intelligence. This is important because there will always be problems, but a good EQ will help us solve them and increase stability as well as satisfaction. And this is important because in romantic relationships, there will always be problems due to human nature itself. Now also, to find your ideal partner, it's better if you look for them before they look for you, because mathematically you'll gain more if you start searching. This is explained by the Gale-Shapley algorithm, also known as the stable marriage paradox. I won't explain how the Gale-Shapley algorithm works, otherwise the script would go on forever. Plus, this channel isn't about math yet. But this algorithm works so well that the US government uses it for medical residencies, organ donations, public school choices, and a few other things. And well, in total, this would be step 3, the wholesome step. What's ethically right? But there's a step 3.5 that's optional, since morally speaking, it's not a good look. Step 3.5, discard. Now, there is a mathematically exact way to find your ideal partner among so many options. The problem is you stop seeing people and start seeing chess pieces and numbers. And being honest, who would have the morals to do something so questionable? And if you apply it, well, who cares? It's time to start seeing people as chess pieces and numbers. We don't want feelings here, we want maximum efficiency. And for this, we'll have to rate our partners and use the 37% rule. First, how do we rate our partners? Well, easy, with a compatibility index, which we'll get from the 3 factors seen in step 3. We'll use it like this. Let's say I meet someone. That person is somewhat within the secure attachment spectrum. That would be a 6.8 out of 10, 10 being someone completely secure. Now, we do the same with the second parameter. In this hypothetical case, we aren't that similar to the person we are interested in, we don't share much. That means that in the similarity section, they get a 1.5 out of 10, 10 being literally a clone. And with the last parameter, yeah, they're emotionally intelligent, although sometimes they get carried away. So, a 5.8 out of 10. 10 being someone who always acts in the best way. Now, we simply add these values and divide by 3. This leaves us with the person we are interested in having a compatibility index of 4.7, with 10 being Jesus Christ. Now, we'll use this number along with the 37% rule, which is another mathematical rule that basically says, if you have 10 romantic partners throughout your life, reject the first 37% no matter what, meaning the first 4. And calculate your compatibility score with each one. Take the highest score they got, and with that number start dating more people, rejecting them if they don't have a compatibility score higher than the first 37%. And let's say on the 8th one, you find the person who actually has a compatibility score higher than the first 37%. Then stay with them. And that way, mathematically, you'll have the ideal partner. Now, for this whole calculation to be more precise, it's ideal for the relationship to last 6 months to a year, as this will give us more accurate data. Other than that, these 10 people could easily be 3 or 1,000. The important thing is to always reject the first 37% and use their data as a benchmark for who will end up with you. And in the end, if you follow this to the letter, mathematically, you'll get one of the best partners, or the best one that would have accepted you, mathematically speaking. And one thing about the 37% rule, outside of this highly questionable use we're giving it, is that it's very useful since it allows us to choose without knowing what's to come. And in real life, it's used in things like real estate, asset sales, and hiring. That's where its other name comes from, which is the secretary problem, which is just another way of calling the 37% rule. Now, I'm pausing at this point in the video to tell you not to follow step 3.5. Don't follow it. It won't make you happy and you won't get anything out of it. I'm just leaving this here as a curiosity, but following it would be foolish. Step 4. Maintain. Once you've found your other half, you reach the final and permanent phase, which is maintaining love by avoiding the traps that make relationships fail. First, if you followed step 3.5 or are highly ambitious, in this step you have to destroy all of that. The urge to keep looking or wanting something better will only sabotage the relationship. You have to know how to stop that for the relationship to work better. Next will be to follow to the fullest the research from the Gottman Lab, which shows that many relationships that end up failing, it's because of 4 horsemen: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. If you avoid these 4 mistakes, your relationship will work. But don't just stop at avoiding mistakes. It's also important to foster empathy, trust, mutual admiration, and good communication. And it's also really good that for every bad interaction, there are 5 good ones. That's more than enough for a relationship to last a long time and be very, very strong. Now, this whole plan we've built is so meticulous, mathematical, psychological, and rational. And it has a name, not the plan, but the individual who creates and applies it. In psychology, this concept comes from Barry Schwartz's paradox of choice theory. He divides people into 2 categories: maximizers or satisficers. The former always want the best, so they look, think, and make plans to get it, while the latter simply accept what they get. It turns out that even though maximizers objectively have a better life than satisficers, at the end of the day, us maximizers are the most depressed, with the most regrets, and in general, we're the least happy. By this, I mean that even though our nature drives us to always want the best and get more, we have to control it so that when we finally get something we wanted so badly, this same ambition doesn't stop us from enjoying what we achieved. And that in the end, you use the plan however you see fit. Maybe you haven't figured out steps 1 and 2 yet, but you're already in a relationship. In that case, apply step 4, keeping your relationship from failing and making it something beautiful. In the end, remember that my plan is good but unrealistic. You'd have to be a machine to follow it to the letter, and we're not. Use and modify this plan as you see fit, without hurting anyone else. This is the complexity of love. There are so many biological, rational, emotional, environmental factors, and so much more, which make it impossible for us to fully understand what love is and how it works. In my attempt to understand this phenomenon, I realized that it's simply impossible. Humans are incredibly complex animals. Even something as simple as seeing if we are polygamous or monogamous. In our case, we don't know for sure. And even modern love between a man and a woman is a very recent thing. But I think that's the essence of being human. We're the only animal that can put our mind over our biology. And this is the greatest blessing God could have given us, because it means that as individuals, we can choose how we want to love those close to us and our partner, in this case. If you could take away just one thing from this whole video, it would be that you have to find fulfillment on your own. Love has to come from a place of fulfillment, not from need. To find true love, you first have to find it within yourself. Once you love yourself, you'll find true love anywhere, in any place, and in any person. What a great ending, right? On screen you'll see all the sources I used for this video. And to wrap up, the vast majority of things said in this video apply to other forms of love, not just conventional love. And besides that, this video was originally going to be much longer, like 40-50 minutes. And sadly, I had to cut a lot out. But here's a quick list of what I cut. 1. Your biology can lead you to be more unfaithful. 2. If either of your partner's parents was unfaithful, your partner is more likely to be. 3. I was going to explain the math used in this video in more depth, but it was going to be too long. 4. I was going to expand more on all the points in general, like the MHC. And 5, and I think the most important one, in the end, you and your partner will be totally different in 10 years. You won't be the people you are now. But instead of this being bad, it's actually great, because you'll adapt to each other. If you liked this video, subscribe and give it a like. That would help me out a lot. A video recommended by YouTube should have popped up on your screen. Check it out. I'm sure it's good. And thank you so much for watching the video.